like to introduce and invite Astronaut Clay Anderson to come forward and share a little bit of reflection about science and faith and his experience as an astronaut.
Thank you. Wow, this makes me really nervous. Oh, there's people up there too. Yeah, raise the roof, right? I don't have too much time here today because I know he's got a 40, 50-minute sermon that he wants to do. But I thought, I've spoken a lot since I've been here in Hastings, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Doc S., for creating this Faith and Science Symposium with Alice Throckmorton and the Throckmorton family. I'm honored and privileged to be here. And so as I've been doing my thing here at Hastings since Friday, I try to mix it up a little bit and make sure that people don't have to just listen to me talk all the time. So what I want to do this morning is a little different, but I want to start out with a quick story. And the story involves my wife and I on the day before launch back in 2007, my first trip to space on Atlantis from the Kennedy Space Center. And one of the traditions that are provided for astronauts is you get to do a spouse pad tour with your significant other. And the astronauts were quarantined at crew quarters, and all the spouses were checked by doctors to make sure they didn't have any disease they were going to transmit to us before we went to space. And they came out and they brought our spouses, and we got together and we went in a van together out to the pad. Well, you have to understand that the day before launch, there was a little tension in the air, especially between Susan and I. It's our first time. And I apologize, I may get emotional when I tell this story, but I'll try to get through it. So here we are at the pad on the lowest level, which is pretty high, but we're at the lowest level where there's an elevator that's going to take us higher. But the rules were you could wander around the pad, you weren't supposed to touch anything, right? You couldn't put your bare hands on stuff because that would be bad, that would put grease and things that weren't supposed to be there. And as Sue and I walked around the lower level, you're stepping over electrical cables and you're watching out for conduits and you're moving around those big silver barriers that they put up to keep us safe. And Sue and I didn't talk much. We looked at each other a lot. Gosh, it started early. And we held hands. It was like we were on our first date again, right? There was so much anxiety. I don't know what she was thinking. I knew what I was thinking. And I was a day before I was going to get on this beast and launch into space. So we didn't actually know what we needed to say to each other to make each other feel better. And if you're asking what this has to do with faith and science, this is a big faith part. The science comes this afternoon at 3. Anyway, so we're wandering around at the lower level, and we're just looking at each other and looking at the magnificence of the shuttle, because you can stand underneath their engines and look up into them, but you couldn't touch anything. And a little yellow butterfly came and flew around my head. And as we watched that little butterfly, we both looked at each other pretty much simultaneously and said, hey, maybe that's Dad. We lost our dad back in 1984, but we thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It made us relax a little bit, this beautiful little butterfly flying around my head. And then we continued our pad tour, and that meant we got into the elevator and we went up to the 195-foot level. That's the level that's famous because it has the last toilet on Earth. And it's critical, but it's just a silver stool with no lid, and you have to do it on your own. But as we're wandering around on this pre-pad tour the day before, and we're up at now the 195-foot level, which doesn't take you all the way to the top, but it takes you about to the top of where the shuttle's nose is. And we're still not saying much. We're squeezing each other tight. We're hugging a lot. And then here comes a butterfly. And he flies around my head again. And we looked at each other and we squeezed our hands a little tighter. Yeah, maybe that is Dad. Maybe that's Dad coming down to say, it's going to be okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. Well, the last part of the tour, because you're at the 195-foot level and you have a gorgeous view of the Atlantic Ocean, you have a gorgeous view of the Kennedy Space Center. I mean, you have a gorgeous view of everything. And then you get on a staircase and you climb the last set of stairs that take you up so high that you're at the top of the big orange external tank that has a little probe that sticks out of the top. It has an opening where the venting happens for all the liquid oxygen and hydrogen. And it's as high as you can possibly go on the pad. And as we're standing there and squeezing our hands again and talking very little, the butterfly showed up again. And I looked at Sue and I said, you know, I didn't know butterflies flew this high. And she didn't know either. But again, it was a sign that perhaps the presence of the Lord was in this place, in the form of my Father's Spirit. So, as I go through this story, and I think about how I wanted to relate to you people this morning, I decided to step out of bounds a little bit, and I'd like to sing for you, if that's okay. Haven't done it in a while. I'm not a professional, but I'm going to do my best. But the title of the song is Surely the Presence of the Lord is in This Place. It's one of my favorites. It's by Lanny Wolfe. I've sung it many, many times, and I think it's important to share with you that everything I did as an astronaut, everywhere I went, whether it was Canada, Japan, Germany, Russia, St. Petersburg, Moscow, everywhere I went, every spacesuit I put on, every practice run I made in the swimming pool, every practice flight I made in the T-38, my faith said, surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. So if you'll indulge me for a minute. You tuned this, right? Doc S. would be proud. My folder says Sackleben event on it. Let's see. Houston, we have a problem. Those are screws. I'm 66 years old, so my eyes are really bad. Can you turn the light? That's what you're trying to do, right? Ah! There we go. Thank you. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can see the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. In the midst of His children, the Lord said He would be. It doesn't take very many. It can be just 2 or 3. And I feel that same sweet spirit that I felt oft times before. Surely I can say I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills this place. I touch the hem of His garment, I can almost see his face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of his joy. I know without a doubt I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in